All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and clicking on this podcast. We're actually starting today's podcast by letting you guys know that we are following COVID-19 laws and guidelines, I should say. So we're doing this podcast in a video form where everyone's in their house, everyone's safe and healthy. So I have here Edgar and Yuly, Edgar being the president of Monarch Claims and Yuly being another PA in the industry with Monarch Claims. And I wanted to introduce you guys, but I feel like I should let you guys introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me your 30-second pitch.
Ladies first.
All right. So yes, I'm a public adjuster here with Monarch, and I joined the industry back in 2007 after an expansion in the industry due to other hurricanes, Wilma and Katrina back in 2005. So that led to an expansion. I had the opportunity to join the industry, and 13 years later, here we are today, sharing those experiences with you guys.
Awesome.
Hi. Well, I'm Edgar.
You've always been camera shy. You've always been camera shy. It's okay.
From the three of us, I mean, you did say let it be natural, right?
So, Yep. Let's just be natural.
I also joined the industry in 2007. It's a little bit of a long story, but that's when it all began. I started on the insurance side of things as an independent adjuster, and eventually I jumped into what is commonly known as the dark side, but in reality, it's the good side.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people feel like, right? So I've always wondered, like, what got you guys into this? Like, what made you guys sort of say, let me get into public adjusting, or let me get into insurance adjusting. What was that big step? What was that first step looking like?
I mean, for me, I was not even aware of like what the industry was like. It was just an opportunity, and I took it. Like I mentioned earlier, at the time there was a big need for public adjusters in the industry because there was two catastrophic hurricanes that were within 2 months of each other. So insurance companies were overwhelmed. They were denying claims, they were delaying claims. So all of a sudden there was a surge for the need of public adjusters to represent policyholders. I had no idea what I was getting into. I just took an opportunity. And then that's how we got into it. And now we're, passionate about it and representing policyholders. But for me, it was just luck, really.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So there was no big influence in between your friends doing it or something like that, right? It was just like you just found it very interesting, right?
Yeah, I didn't even know what a public adjuster was.
Welcome to the club, because I did not know. I did not know until since I met Edgar, so I did not know what a public adjuster was. I didn't even know that existed. What about you, Edgar? Like, what sort of drove you into the industry?
Well, and that's the long story, but I'm going to try to make it as short as possible.
We have time.
So my aunt had a claim at her house, and then the public adjuster that represented her kind of started to get her into the business, but they immediately, obviously, she saw an opportunity there, and she brought my mom on board. So things started moving along, and then it occurred to them, hey, how about you join, but on the insurance side, so you learn how they operate, and then you could bring all that knowledge, and help us out. And I was like, I was really young, not much younger, and
You're still pretty young. You're still pretty young. So.
Yeah, I've always been very ambitious. So it was an opportunity to make good money. It appeared at that time. So I said, why not? Let's do it. And that's how I jumped in.
Yeah. Okay. And this was back in what, 2007
was when 7 or 8, one of those two.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So you've been in the game for a while now. Yeah, it's been Very long time. Cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So,
in quite some time.
So what was it like starting back then when I guess the two hurricanes hit, right? You had Wilma and you had Katrina.
Katrina.
Yeah. Because I know Katrina didn't really hit us as much as it hit, for example, like a place like Houston, right?
Well, no, they both affected Florida. Yeah, Katrina was in
Right.
August
Yeah.
of 2015.
25th.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and 8/25/15, and the other one was 10/25. So exactly like 2 months apart. They both did hit Florida though, because I remember it was a busy time.
Yeah.
Right after that.
10/25/05.
I actually came when
05. Yes, I'm sorry, not 15. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
05.
I came to this country the year of the hurricane, and then it was just vacation, and then I left, and then that happened, and the year after I decided to stay here. But I saw the videos and the devastation of like the all the cities and the houses being torn apart basically. Yeah, it was very tough to see, people losing their houses and their businesses because of this. And it's only going to get worse with climate change. It's something that right now it's very interesting to see, but it's also very bad for, when you look at right now, the average person, with a house, like, can they actually afford another damage if they don't have insurance, And so what if a big storm happens like this, where it just wipes them out, claims
the importance of being insured and having the proper coverage, right?
Yeah.
And we lucked out for many years up until 2017. We had Irma. We lucked out from all those other storms.
Yeah, for sure.
Years in between. And it's important to know a reason why there was so much growth, a couple of years after those hurricanes is back then, insureds had 5 years to file a claim. So from 2005 to 2010, it was a busy time, reopening claims for both of those hurricanes. Now they only have 3 years instead of 5. So that's a notable, difference between, when we started and now.
Right. So, okay. So going back to those 5 years, why do you think they changed it? Was it because of the amount of claims that they were, being hit with? Or was it just a natural, sort of thing that they just did?
No, I think they were threatened by, the insureds having proper representation. And
Right.
so just cutting that time short for them, for people like us to get to them.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, and also the more time that passes, the harder it is to evaluate the damages and, link them to the cause. If you report something that happened 4 years ago, how can the carrier really know, hey, this happened 4 years ago? So then it makes it a challenge to put those claims through.
Right.
That's why I think, one of the reasons why they lessen the amount of years that you need to report.
And they were recently trying to lessen even more to 2 years, but that didn't pass.
Luckily.
Was it because why didn't it pass? Did somebody complain? Like what was going on?
Yeah, we advocated for the policyholders.
Okay,
and
great.
Many others like us, and we made sure it didn't pass.
Awesome. And I feel like that's the importance of being active in the community. It's getting that sense of I guess leadership, because you know what's best, and so but the homeowner might not realize that this is going on. So you guys, I remember that you guys actually went out of your way to email the politicians that this was going through, and basically calling them up and telling them like, hey, like let's make sure this is not going through, because it's only going to hurt the homeowner. So you're basically going to be I guess in a sense screwing them over, and this is kind of what I've been feeling with sort of the insurance world, with insurance agencies. It's like, let me get and not give. That's sort of the sense that I've gotten. Because I've seen, for example, there was this thing in the UK where I believe it was that right now, currently in this situation with COVID-19, their excuse is basically they're not going to be they're in a way basically telling us that they cannot pay everyone, right? Because they basically sold way too many policies, right, for business interruption. So, but if you know that a pandemic is going to do something like this, then why are you selling it in the first place? Why not have a limit, to cover your bottom line, and these are the sort of questions that I'm sort of interested into seeing what you guys think about that,
Well, I mean, we personally have reviewed several business policies already, and many of them have exclusions that the carrier says apply to this type of loss, to a viral infection or business interruption due to viruses. And I don't know. I haven't seen anything specific to pandemics, and that's why also we're trying to open up coverage through that route. But right now, all of that is basically up in the air. We're waiting for somebody to make a move as far as legislation goes to see if we can help those business owners recover through their insurance.
Yeah.
As far as not being prepared to cover all the losses, I don't think that's true, man. Insurance companies are
and even insurance companies have insurance, and there's also state departments. So there's state departments that handle those kind of things. If a company goes insolvent, then they take over, and so
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So there's still other ways. If they have a covered loss, if they're entitled to something, like, won't find a way to get it one way or another, they're going to get compensated. The important thing is having the coverage and having a qualifying loss or something in their policy that would cover, whether it be business interruption or whatever it is, just making sure that whatever loss they suffer is covered, and then we'll find a way to get it paid.
Yeah. But that's but that right now is their excuse, it's that basically the insurance agencies are not going to be able to pay everyone. That's their excuse right now, which I find very baffling. How can you sell someone something, and once they actually truly need your help, it comes to the point where you can't help them because you basically are out of money per se, or out of resources, I guess.
I think their argument right now is that it's not covered, is that a pandemic or a virus is not covered. That's the stand that they're taking. Even if the truth is they can't afford it, their excuse right now is that that's not a covered loss.
Yeah. I know that the governor of California right now is telling insurance companies that they actually need to pay their clients, for this business interruption zone that actually do have it. So in a way, I guess politicians are actually acting, I forgot when, but I think even Trump said that insurance agencies should actually be covering businesses for business interruption. Like he thinks that it's actually not fair.
Yeah, but he says it should. It's not fair, but they're private entities. They're not really required to take the president's recommendation unless it goes into effect as a law.
Can you guys just walk me through, because I'm very interested in what's the process like for a homeowner? Like what should they do when they get some sort of damage? Because I've seen a lot of people sort of in a way ignoring damages, very minimal damages that you can actually claim, and very big damages that you have to claim or you should claim because it's it's hurting, I guess, your well-being in the structure of the house. So can you guys just walk me through in my ignorant brain on what a homeowner should do to sort of mitigate what damages they get.
This may sound a little biased, but I think all homeowners should have immediate access to a public adjuster.
Mm-hmm.
We're the people that represent them and their interests, right? So we are going to be honest with them right away, whether it's a covered loss, whether it's sufficient damage to file a claim, you know, and even before they file the claim, like we could be that person that tells them if it even qualifies for one. So that way they don't have to file the claim and then later on discover that it either wasn't covered or the damages didn't exceed the deductible. Mm-hmm. That claim does stay in their record forever. More than forever, no. I think it's like 5-7 years. I'm not sure. That part, I don't know. But to your point, I think that if there was a way that every single homeowner could know about public adjusters in general, and they could contact us first, it would be ideal, because the insurance company is not going to give them that guidance, that initial guidance that they need. They're just going to make a decision as to, is it covered, is it not, and is it, you know, are you entitled to payment or is it undeductible?
Yeah. So you're basically saying that, you know, public adjusters are very underrated in a sense, you know, and not well known. You know, not many people know about public adjusters.
Yeah, and what other public adjusters don't know too, insureds don't know, we're not just public adjusters, we are advocates for homeowners. We are policyholders ourselves. Right. Whether you don't hire a public adjuster or you don't hire Monarch, we are still advocating, because when we write, you know, like you mentioned earlier, when we email these legislators, we're doing this for all of the policyholders in Florida. So mm-hmm. essentially we're working for everyone in Florida, whether you hire us or not, or you don't hire a public adjuster, Monarch is advocating for all policyholders in Florida. Right. So, you know, we're active members of multiple, you know, industry organizations. So we are on top of, you know, these things that try to get passed in legislation, like we were talking about earlier, you know, shortening the time to 2 years. So a lot of things that we're involved in that homeowners have no knowledge of, have no, you know, they're not aware of that. So we are advocating for them, even silently. They don't know it. So that's why you should hire a public adjuster or hire Monarch. But we are essentially advocates for policyholders, not just public adjusters.
Right. Yeah. And that's sort of, yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
If you want a public adjuster, you could hire one. But if you want the best, then you hire Monarch, of course.
Yeah. I second that.
Of course. So, but going back to the whole question about, you know, basically mitigating the damages, right? What exactly would you tell somebody other than calling a public adjuster, you know, to do? Like, because I feel like homeowners don't hear this enough, where it's like, hey, you need to stop the damage. I think it's what you've told me. You need to stop the damage, you know, as it's happening, you know? So I kind of wanted to hear from you. Is there an instance where somebody hasn't stopped the damage and, you know, they get denied because of that?
Yeah, it's very common to see people or insureds that discover a leak and they don't realize how severe it actually is. Mm-hmm. They think that because it's a small drip, you know, that they can procrastinate in reporting this or fixing it to prevent the damages from worsening. But the policy requires you to stop that leak immediately upon noticing it. Even if it's a drop every hour, you have to stop it from continuing to drip. Sorry. So yeah, definitely mitigate by, as soon as it's discovered, stop the leak, whether it's shutting off the water or doing a temporary repair, or calling a plumber, but just stop it from continuing to worsen. Mm-hmm. And two, in the case of water damage, if you discover, let's say, you know, a puddle of water in your kitchen, dry it up as soon as possible. Towels, with anything that you can, so that your building materials don't continue to deteriorate with the water.
Yeah.
And those are things that are found in your policy, and realistically, you know, who reads their full policy? This could go, it could range, you know, it could be in you know, excess of 100 pages. So these are things that, you know, unless when you have a damage, you sit down and go through 100 pages and find that there, you're not going to know. And you call your insurance company, you could get denied for doing that. Now you make one call, to us, and we know what's in your policy. We're going to take the time, to read your whole policy, and we're going to tell you exactly what you need to do on the spot. You don't have to wait and, go through your policy, or worse, not notice it in your policy, not know what you have to do, and then end up getting your claim denied.
Yeah, that's actually very important. Yeah, go for it.
To that point, I have never had a client that has read their policy, like beyond the deck page. So, and again, and that's
if they even know what that is.
And 13 years of doing this, I have never had a client tell me, "Hey, I've read my entire policy and I know like what I'm covered for."
Yeah. Nobody does that.
Nobody does that.
It's kind of like the when you're signing up to something and it's like, do you agree? The terms and agreement. You're not going to read through the whole thing,
I mean, I've never read my car insurance policy.
And so
I'm not a car adjuster, so
it's you don't even read the Facebook terms and conditions, so why would you even read that? And I guess it goes back to the whole, I guess in a sense we're kind of lazy, as people. And we want the least resistance as
we
possible.
Trust. I think the worst thing is that we trust companies, we trust entities, or something like an insurance company. You trust them that you're hiring them, they're going to take care of you.
That's true.
I think that's the problem.
In this case, I think the agents offer that like comfort when they sell the policy of like you're taken care of, you're taken care of by this document, but in reality you're not.
Yeah,
or
that
at
could
least
be very dangerous.
Not as much as you think. So, but you think that the person that's selling you that is knowledgeable enough to make the necessary decisions for you, and that person, unfortunately, in most cases, is not.
And they may not have any ill intentions, by doing that. Sometimes they're trying to help the insured out. Sometimes the insured's like, hey, can you lower my premium? And then to help them out and pay a little bit less, save a little bit of money, they end up, losing coverages or
and that's something that I discussed in the podcast that I did with Jag not too long ago, and that's understandable because some insureds may not have the funds to afford the coverage that they need at that time, but at least make them aware. Don't just sell it to them what they're asking for. Let them know, look, I'm going to sell you this policy as you're requesting, but know that you're not covered for this, you're not covered for that, you're limited here, you're so that they know what they're expecting.
So there's no surprises later.
It's kind of like a doctor telling you like, what are the chances of this operation going well? That's at least the way that I look at it. I do think that we sort of trust people into what they're saying. And that could be very dangerous, because you never know what you're signing. You're basically signing your life away if you sign the wrong thing, and so it's kind of weird and interesting at the same time, like to sort of, I don't know, what's the psychology behind it? Why do we trust people so much that are selling something to us?
Because you don't know, and they do.
Right.
Yeah, but so
we do know. So
we do, but agents and
But instead of just maybe getting just one policy with one agent, maybe get a couple, from different agents. I feel like that would be the way to go. Do your homework. Make sure that
actually, Javi, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What I would recommend is the agent is selling you the policy. If you really want somebody to know, you can go to several agents, but go to somebody with experience like us, like have us review your policy and say, hey, look, if you were by this policy, if this were to happen, this is the kind of coverage that you're gonna get. Do you understand that? If this happens, you don't have any coverage. So, just cross-reference, get a couple opinions. Like you're mentioning, you go to different doctor, right? Go to someone, it's free. We offer that, as a free service. We can review your policy and we can tell you, what could happen if you buy the policy. And like Edgar said, just be educated. If you still decide to make that decision and take that risk and, cut your costs on your policy, that's up to you. But now you're prepared and you know what to expect if something happens.
Yeah. And I get the whole point of, wanting to cut corners a little bit. I always try and do that, but at the same time, I feel like it's when you cut too much, you don't have enough substance, to get the structure up, to keep the structure up. And so, which corners should you possibly cut? You know what I mean? It's like if you don't have tornadoes somewhere, then there's no sense in having tornado insurance. You know what I mean? Um, it could happen. What are the probabilities of it happening is the other question. Is what's important. But I definitely see I see this all the time. It's just basically click and go, sign and go, basically. Um, and something that, for example, something that I kind of want to ask you guys is the differences in between flood and water damage. Because I'm still confused about that. Like, I was trying to search it up and, trying to see what I come up with. But I don't know if flooding, do they mean like I leave the sink on and, it starts flooding the whole house, or is it flooding from the outside? Like, what's going on? Like, what is that? What is flood insurance?
Before we get into that, I want to say something about cutting corners with insurance. Remember that home insurance is, a protection for one of your biggest assets. So I wouldn't recommend ever cutting corners with insurance, particularly. Yeah. If you need to save some money, maybe, don't eat out as much, or turn off more lights, use less water.
Eat potatoes and ham all the time.
Cut those kinds of corners. But definitely.
Sorry, on that note, I want to mention, I see a lot of homeowners too, when they pay off their homes, they pay off their mortgages, they think it's like a free pass not to have insurance. And then they decide to not have insurance after you paid, 30, 40 years, your hard-earned money, you paid off a property. Now they're like, okay, I don't have a mortgage. So if you don't have a mortgage, maybe it's a good idea to at least keep your insurance. You're already saving money in your mortgage. So, it's never a good idea to cut corners, or definitely not have insurance, even if, it's not required by, you don't have a lender or whatever. It's always good to have insurance anyway.
Yeah. Oh, so question about that. Because you need insurance to have a mortgage, right?
Well, the other way around.
Sorry, you need
if you have a mortgage, if you have a lender on your property, you're going to have, there's going to be a minimum basic requirement, which you can call your mortgage department and ask them what that minimum coverage is. And then from there, you can go up whatever, coverages you want to increase. But yeah, if you do have a mortgage or a lender, a lien on your property, you do have to have insurance.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's required. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They're protecting their asset.
Right. Yeah, of course. Because at the end of the day, if you stop paying, it's basically I guess in a sense, the mortgage is property, that's at least what I understand.
But they just care about the structure as a whole.
Right.
You understand?
Of course.
If something were to happen, but if you purchase a policy with some sort of exclusions or limitations, they don't care if you, as long as the property is still, the walls are and the roof are up and standing, they don't care if you have a pretty kitchen or if you have a terrible kitchen or a cheap kitchen, or if your kitchen gets damaged and you have to replace it, they don't care about that. So that's what you have to protect. You have to make sure you have those little coverages and those little things, that because you're the one that's going to be living in the house on a daily, you're the one that's going to have to be in that home with that kitchen, with those floors, with those bathroom damages. So that's your responsibility. They just care about the structure.
They just want the property. Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha. So going back to the whole flooding thing, like what's the situation with that? Because I don't truly get it. I know what a flood is, I guess, but I don't really get the difference in between water and flood. Why is there even a difference?
Well, as defined by the policy, and in simple terms, flood is any water that comes from the outside in, like raising water.
Rising water.
Floods into your rising water that floods into your home from the outside in, basically. But if you have what you would consider a flood due to a pipe break inside your house, that's not, as defined by the policy, that's not considered a flood.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so the flood is more determined by the source than the actual, flood. So any kind of water can cause a flooding, but only if it comes in from the outside as rising water. And if you have flood insurance. For example, I live in a flood zone, even though my house has never been flooded. I'm required to have flood insurance. But if your house does get flooded and it's caused by, a flood from the outside, you have to have, flood insurance. So that's a little more tricky, like when the case of a hurricane, and you have like a homeowner's policy with hurricane coverage and there's a flood, then they'll figure out, who's responsible for what, as far as the damages go, what was caused by flood damage, what was caused by, the hurricane itself. So it's a little more complicated.
Anything 2 feet down from the wall, they'll attribute to, if both causes, if you have damage due to the hurricane and then also due to flood, they usually consider anything from the wall 2 feet down would go under the flood policy, and anything above would go under the hurricane or the homeowner's policy.
Gotcha.
Right.
And that's actually something interesting that you mentioned, Yuly, which is you are required to have flood insurance where you live. Why is that? Is it because you live below sea level or at sea level?
So no, every 10 years, the county does a survey of elevation. And depending on the elevation of your property, you may fall under a flood zone. I don't live anywhere near the coast or a lake or a river, anything like that. And I happen to be in that flood zone by like a block. Like I looked at this map, when I was required, I was like, why do I need to pay extra insurance? And like the cutoff is like a block down. So every 10 years they reevaluate because, land settles and elevation changes. So based on that elevation, and I'm actually excited because I shouldn't say that, but in about a year, they're going to reevaluate my area and then I can decide if I want to keep flood insurance or not. But so it's some areas it's required, like for me, and you can look at that map of Miami-Dade County. You can look at those, you can put in your address and it'll tell you if you're in a flood zone. And then if you're not, you still have the option to purchase that. It's very cheap though to have
really
that extra
like
coverage,
how much
compared?
are we talking about?
$200 a year.
Okay.
Like
$300 to $500.
Yeah, like $300, $400, $500 a year, depending, on your property, where you live. So it is very cheap. And, we do recommend, you have it.
So it's basically like paying like what, like $40 a month, up to $40 a month, $50 a month.
Something like that. Yeah, it gets distributed, throughout the year. So it is very cheap. But so you have the option to purchase it, or you may be required.
Gotcha. And I also keep hearing about limits to certain policies and how they're messing up the home insurance policies basically, and the homeowner itself. And can you guys just walk me through that? First of all, why is there even a limit? I thought that you covered me for whatever I needed, if it were to be damaged. Like, why is there even a limit? I'm paying your money for covering me basically,
Well, there has to be a limit to how much they're going to pay, right? I think what you're referring to is a sub-limit for water damage, right?
I'm not too sure. Educate me.
So now it's common to see nowadays sub-limit and water damage losses of $10,000. So that means that if you have this limit in your policy, and the likelihood is that you do and you're not even aware about it, but if you do have it and you suffer a pipe leak inside your home that floods your entire home, the insurance company is only going to pay you $10K, regardless of how much your damages actually are. And I know,
that's
I know
messed
how
up.
that sounds.
That's messed up.
That definitely is, and especially because where they're not giving proper notice to policyholders.
Right.
Because you may have purchased your policy without a policy or like a water limit, and then mid policy you get a letter in the mail or something saying like upon your renewal, this policy is going to be changed to a 10K limit. Some people don't even. Again, we went back to people not reading their policies, not being knowledgeable in that. They're not even.
And in some cases, in the renewal, they'll include the letter. So, you're receiving your renewal packet and it's your policy, but you as everybody else does, you don't take the time to go through it.
Yeah, it's in the
you
fine
don't even
print.
know. Yeah, you don't even know that the letter is in there.
Yeah.
And if
And for
it's in
those
there,
few, yeah, that's it. You're capped.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and
messed
not
up.
only that, if it's in there, it looks like everything else. So
Yeah.
it's not like something like big red sign,
Right.
careful, red flags. No,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
take
and if you're
advantage.
that,
What would
if
you
you're that
recommend
small group
somebody
that
doing
looks,
it? Like having that? Like, sorry to cut you off, Yuly,
no,
but
no, it's fine.
I'm just really curious about that. Like, what exactly would you recommend somebody that incurs that? Like, let's just say I have a home right now, and I get that notice, and I look at it, and I'm like, why is there a 10K limit? What would you recommend me do?
I would
I'll tell you
recommend
what
you
I
change.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. No, never mind. I was gonna say what I did is I switched. As soon as I saw that, I switched insurance companies, and I made sure to look for those, those coverages that were, were
Is
not
it
capped.
per insurance company, or is it like just overall, like it's basically sold policy by policy? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, some carriers have it. The majority of them are implementing it now, but there are still some carriers out there that do not have this limit.
Gotcha.
As a standard in their policy.
Right.
So, but if you do discover that you have it, immediately start calling your agent and get quotes without this sublimit. If you don't know, you could always send us the policy. We'll review it for you and let you know what you have.
Yeah.
Not only as far as the limit, but in general, how your policy looks as to coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and what sort of other limits are there? Because I feel like it doesn't stop at water limit. I feel like it goes beyond that. Just because, I'm kind of getting the vibe of the insurance company just trying to cut their corners.
There's all sorts of limits, man. It's on personal property. There's limits on electronics, on cash. There's also backup, like sewer backup limits on some policies of $5,000. There's mold limits, of $10,000. That's one that's pretty standard in most policies. There's a lot of things that are limited. The important thing is to know what you're being limited so that you can make a decision as to whether you should continue with that carrier or find somebody else.
Yeah. And what's worse than a limit is an exclusion, because the limit, that's the most you're going to get. There's also exclusions where a certain type of loss or a certain cause is not covered at all. And what I usually tell people is if they have a $10,000 cap, if they want to decide if they want to continue with that carrier or not, just look around. Let's say if your kitchen was to get destroyed by a leak, or your bathroom, just to stop and think, will $10,000 be enough for me to replace this kitchen or this bathroom, or whatever property gets damaged in your house, and bring it back to its original condition without me having to pay it in my pocket? If you're comfortable answering yes to that, then that's a personal choice. But if you know that what you have replacing your kitchen, your property, your things is more than $10,000, it's not worth the risk.
Right. Yeah.
I would always get an opinion of an expert, because maybe you think that your kitchen is worth $10K, $10,000, but what if it's more than that? Or what if there's other damages or other repairs necessary that will add to the replacement of the kitchen? Like continuous paint throughout, imagine a house that has continuous paint throughout the open and common areas. These are things that add up, and you'll end up being capped, even though, regardless of how much it actually is to replace.
Yeah. And there's always more damage than you can see to the common eye. Like once that's it, once you take that money or you sign, that doesn't matter how much more you spent, you're not getting anything else.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And so, when it comes to the types of damages, I do see that a lot of people underestimate the types of damages that they have. Like for example, the house that I live in, it has a couple of broken tiles. And I didn't know until you told me that could be claimed, and I keep on encountering that, I keep on seeing, like, maybe just one shingle in the roof, being, broken. But then next thing you know, like it it has a leak, because that thing is broken and it's filtering through the roof. So,
or it may be leaking and you don't even realize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Through.
Yeah, exactly. It's over time, and that actually goes back to what we were talking about, the whole thing about mitigating and making sure you mitigate at the time of damage. I feel like if correct me if I'm wrong, but if you let that thing, even if you don't notice it over time, it's probably not good for you and your claim, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So that's why you always want to let. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's why you should always let an expert, inspect it.
Yeah.
Because you may not think anything is wrong. You might not find anything, but an expert will know if there's anything.
I haven't dealt with this in a while, but there are several policies that they exclude hidden damages. So you may have had something that's been going on for several months or whatever it may be, and once you discover it's extensive damage or extensive mold, it could potentially be excluded or limited by the mold and fungi sublimits up to a policy. So that's another thing. So that's why it's important to know what coverages you have and what type of policy you have.
Yeah, that's messed up because I feel like insurance companies are kind of like, with all these policies, and limits and exclusions, I feel like they want me to sort of be actively looking at my house for damages, and like being very tedious about it, and it kind of beats the purpose of having a home because you kind of want to feel at home, at least that's what I think, because for example, with the whole hidden damages, like, you expect me to actually know that my attic was leaking when I haven't been there for about 15 years? Like, really?
No.
No, but that's what you signed when you signed that contract with them.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But they wouldn't even tell me, like,
why would they?
Exactly. So, yeah, I feel I'm really starting to see the importance of going out there and doing your homework. And this applies to like so many things, like even just buying a microwave, like just go out there and do your homework, make sure that you're getting the right thing for you, not necessarily for everyone else, but for you.
And seek the help of professionals, that's part of doing your homework too, is going to someone who has the knowledge and experience that you don't, to assess you in that field. Like you would hire an attorney, or or you would file your taxes, you would go to an accountant, so go to someone who is a professional in that, if you're not that person.
Yeah. All right. So
go for it. You guys get away from that. And because we don't sell policies, if you come to us for advice, like, it'll be unbiased, right?
Yeah.
We're not gonna. We'll tell you exactly what you have, not trying to sell you a product. And of course, and again, this is like with no ulterior motive or alternate motive, however you say it. We're not trying to get you to send us your policy so that we can get you as a client.
Yeah.
If we are able to provide you with valuable information that serves you in the future and educates you, and any other consumer, that's more than good for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's enough. That's what we want. We just want the consumer to be more knowledgeable.
Yeah. Educating the general populace,
right. And at the same time, we're educating ourselves. The more policies we see, the more policies we review, we're educating the client, but we're educating ourselves. There's more more policies that we get to read, more things that we encounter. So, it's a win-win situation for both of us. Exactly. So it's a win-win for both.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I just don't know why people just don't do their homework, and this is actually a big problem in Florida, because we get hit by hurricanes all the time, right? What's the last one that we were going to get hit by, but it didn't go, what's his name? Dorian. It just hovered literally around the Bahamas and destroyed that.
But forget about the hurricanes, just for daily things that happen, like pipe leaks, fires, vandalisms.
Yeah.
You know, these are occurrences that are inevitable.
Yeah. That's actually very interesting that you mentioned vandalism, because not a lot of people might realize that, you know, they might even not even realize that they're covered with that, or they're not covered with that. You know, it applies in both cases. I think that's what I've seen, because, you know, when you look at someone, you know, vandalizing a house, right? The first thought that comes to your mind is not definitely, am I insured? You know, the first thing that probably comes to your mind is I'm gonna, you know, you
lose your sense.
Yeah, you lose your
sense of security.
You know? Yeah, exactly. So, that also applies with like theft claims, you know.
But if you knew that you were covered,
yeah.
If you knew that you were covered, I guarantee you that it would be, the stress level would be, you know, much less.
Yeah.
Because you know, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you know that it's material things, and at the end of the day, you're gonna be put back to where you were, thanks to, you know, the fact that you have the proper coverage.
Yeah.
And the proper representation, because you can have the proper coverage and still not be compensated if you don't have proper representation, because they know that you don't have the knowledge to fight for what you really deserve and what you pay for. So those are two.
I just don't get it, man. I don't get why, you know, homeowners don't realize that they could be getting protected better. You know, it's very weird to sort of see, you know, and you encounter it every single day. You guys encounter clients that they don't even know that their you know, their policy covers this but doesn't cover that, you know. And so I don't know, it feels weird to not know what something as important as my house, you know, like every aspect of my house, you know.
It's one of those things that you have, but you don't know you need until something happens, and then you really need it. Yeah. So that's the problem, that, you know, people, you don't suffer a loss or a damage every single day, right? This happens maybe like once every 2 years, 3 years, or maybe 5 years, or maybe it's
unless you have bad luck.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it could happen like 4 or 5 times in a year. Yeah. But typically, it doesn't happen. It's not something that happens often. So to those people, or to the people that they've never experienced a claim, to them, insurance is, you know, it's like they have it, but they don't realize the importance of it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not an imminent threat for them. You know what I mean? It's that's what I feel like it's happening, that because you don't see the imminent danger, then you're not going to even worry about it. You know, it applies to, you know, to a lot of things that, you know, on your day-to-day life. You know, if you don't see the benefit, it's just like, you know, talking about habits. If you don't see the good side of a habit, you're not going to want to do it. You know that it's good for you, but you don't, you know, it's kind of like that instant sort of ramification that, you know, that you want to see. It's like, oh, I'm protected by this, you know. You know,
I would say that people should think of insurance as wearing their seatbelt. Almost everyone wears their seatbelt every single drive, right?
Yeah.
So then you should make sure you have the best coverage possible. You know, even if you're not going to get in an accident tomorrow, you know, have the proper coverage as you would your seatbelt.
But if it happens, you want to make sure you're wearing it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, for sure. That's a very good way to put it. I'm going to write that down and just quote you. Insurance should be
like seatbelt.
It's like a seatbelt.
Yeah, be like riding with your seatbelt. That's funny.
Don't be caught without it.
Don't be caught in an accident without it.
Yeah. I mean, it's I could see why though. You know what I mean? Like I could see the whole part. Oh, because the thing is that you're not gonna know something's gonna happen to you until it actually happens to you. You know,
we all have insurance, but we all hope we don't have to use it. Everybody has car
yeah,
insurance, health insurance, home insurance, life
yeah,
insurance. But it's all those things that you pay and you pay and you pay, and then you just hope you never have to use it.
yeah.
But
And
if you do,
yeah,
then you want to know that all that money that you put into it all those years is going into something that is gonna, offer a return to you.
Yeah. It's like the way that I look at it is because I come from an engineering background, and the way that I put it is, let's just say I'm building a plane, right? If something doesn't go wrong, if nothing happens when the plane is flying, that's a good thing, right? Because if something were to happen, let's just say you looked out of your window, you see something going wrong, that's what insurance is covered for. You know what I mean? It's you want that sort of I guess safety net, but you don't realize it until you need it. And I know my parents, for example, don't actually have insurance for the inside of the house. And I know we mentioned this before in a conversation Edgar and I
So maybe
had.
they should listen to this podcast.
yeah, they definitely should. I'm gonna let them know.
Not just because their son is in it, but because there's very valuable information here for them.
Yeah. It's but I because they wanted to see if they can claim something, and I was like, wait, what? But you don't have insurance. Why are you trying to claim something, if you don't have insurance? Who are you claiming to? You know what I mean? And so right now they're like getting it together, they're putting the pants on, and they're like, oh, we're definitely getting insurance.
So the next time something happens, they'll be prepared.
Yeah.
And that's good, because I've seen some cases where people don't have insurance, they suffer a loss, and then they get even more discouraged by saying, I wouldn't have been. Oh, in the case of your parents, for example, it's something that wouldn't have been covered either way, unfortunately.
No.
So they get even more discouraged, like, why am I going to get it if it doesn't cover anything?
Yeah.
And that's a misconception too. You might not be covered for that one, unfortunate event, but it does cover for the most common types of losses.
Yeah, and that's what people need to try and get. It's like the insurance is also not like a save all type of thing. Where it's I have damage. My friend broke my window. Like let me claim that. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that. At least in the way that I see it, it's it's just a safety net that you set up. For your bottom line. And so we talked about something that sort of gave me a pointer, which is theft claims. I'm very interested about theft claims because we actually have a high percentage of break-ins in Florida, particularly in the homestead area and all the way up to Boca Raton and those sort of areas. So what exactly would you tell somebody that, they just had their house broken into? Like, what do I do? Like, other than call the cops, like, what do I do? Like, yeah, because of course you're going to have to call the cops, and file a report, I guess. Yeah.
As an adjuster, the first thing that I would do is secure my home as an adjuster now, as a homeowner. The first thing that I would do is secure my home right away. Change the lock, board up the window, whatever it may be, so that you don't have another easy entry there. The second thing I would do, and this is obviously after calling the authorities and filing the police report, right? So, and then proceed immediately to preparing an inventory of everything that's been taken. Because it's fresh, so you can go through your stuff and see where you're missing and where you're not. So those are the two things. And then third, I would report the claim right away. Contact the public adjuster and get that claim in immediately, which is prescribed or required by the policy.
No, to my knowledge, you do need the police report, right? It actually benefits you to have the police report, right?
Yeah, it
So
serves
it's
as
required.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. It's
evidence.
Okay. All right, so it's required to have it.
I believe in case of a theft or a fire, there needs to be, for you to file a claim, there has to be a official report.
Okay, so that's very important. Yeah, that's very
important.
I've
handled cases where the homeowners, again, not knowing, they had a theft claim and they didn't realize that how extensive the damage was, because they were focused only on what was stolen. So they didn't file a police report, and we were still able to get them paid, but we had to jump through several hoops because we didn't have that official report from the authorities. So it's definitely, I don't know if they requested, you can even file it later if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Yeah, because some people, if they feel like, the person's not there, some people may not feel the need to, call for, for help if something is not going on right there. If they got there, they're already robbed. They probably feel like, well, what am I going to call the cops? Like,
exactly.
Unless,
exactly.
Yeah. And also document is important. Document any property that was taken. If you have photographs, if you have receipts of purchases of electronics, of jewelry, whatever, if you do have any receipts or any even pictures are good. And same way to be prepared. I know it sounds maybe silly to take pictures around your house, but you should document it. Not just
you're
for
gonna
theft.
Be that guy just like outside of your house,
well,
taking a picture of your
yeah, I've had claims where insureds have submitted pictures of like a family gathering with a piece of jewelry on, to show as evidence to the insurance company that they they did own that jewelry, or I've been asked for like TV manuals or remote controls to prove that there was a certain TV that was taken, things like that, So if you do have photographs, like I said, it sounds silly, but not just for a theft, for any kind, for a fire, for a hurricane, anything that can destroy property in your house, it's good to just randomly, periodically rather, take pictures of like things in your house, especially valuables, and just have that in case.
Maybe like once a year.
Yeah, when your policy renews, that's a good idea to just.
It almost feels like your entire. Yeah, it almost feels like the insurance companies basically trying to have that gotcha moment, like, oh wait, you said that you're missing a TV? Yeah, can you prove that? No, sir, exactly, I can't. Oh, gotcha. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're trying to get you.
They're in the business of making money, man. At the end of the day, they want to make as much and pay as little as possible so that they can stay profitable. Very profitable.
Yeah, especially something like a theft. Usually valuable items are taken, so it's going to cost them a lot of money, and now they have to pay for all your jewelry, all your electronics, anything else of value that was taken from your home. So they want to make sure that everything you say was taken or that you said you owned, you have some sort of proof. Because any other kind of loss, any kind of damage you have in your house, they have an opportunity to come and inspect your house and see the damaged property. When something's gone, it's gone. Then they kind of want some proof that was even there.
Yeah. To this point, I've had cases where they'll put up a huge fight because the client has no proof whatsoever of the stolen property, but those we're still able to fight them and eventually get the clients paid.
Right.
It's a difficult scenario, but we can get it done. Right. So I don't want people to be discouraged. Like that's another advantage of hiring an expert. Is, we know what to do to make them pay for the things that they're making seem like they wouldn't unless you have proof.
Yeah.
And mind you, we make those recommendations to have all those receipts, those pictures, but that doesn't guarantee you either that they're going to pay for it. It's, they're still going to put up a fight, but just to make it easier, we recommend that you have all those things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's sort of like that's the power of having a public adjuster, that's the power of having any expert in anything, it's making sure that you explore the possibilities out there, Is it possible? Yes. What are the probabilities if you were by yourself? Probably not good, That's kind of like the way that I put it is kind of like being out there in the woods and survivability. What are the probabilities of you surviving? I mean, if you have somebody that has skills, with like climbing trees and building a
like
hut,
if you could hire like a Navy SEAL to go out there with you,
exactly.
then
Yeah,
you probably would.
yeah. And so like
So
consider public adjusters, and particularly us, the Navy SEALs of the industry, in this case. So going back to the whole reporting, because I feel like that's really important, because I didn't know that you had to follow the report, and it's a requirement. It's something that we need to talk about. It's something that, how do you think we should go about educating the homeowner, as far as these steps? Because I feel like it's not, you don't go to school and learn about, what happens if this happens to your house. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's actually a flaw in the education system, where they're not actually taught, these sort of things. They don't teach you how to file your taxes, but it hurts because this type of information that's beneficial for them, is not out there, what are you guys thoughts on like how we should go about educating the homeowner, and what you would tell other people to do? That's a big question. Yes, I know, but let's,
I think it's impossible to like educate anybody in every aspect of, life's needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, if you need any kind of professional, attention, you go to a professional for medical attention, for like I mentioned before, an attorney, a tax person. That's why there's professions. So professions specialize in one thing, and that's why you go to these people. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a little far-fetched to say that we have to educate everybody, and like if you have to educate them in home insurance, and you'd have to educate them in, I don't know, thousands of other aspects of life, that's just impossible. You spend your whole life trying to learn about everything, and then what is it, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, learning is still good, I'll tell you that much. Like you learn every day. And this is, I guess that's because I agree with you, but at the same time I don't, because I feel like we should be striving to let people know exactly how the system works,
Well, and that's what we're doing right here. And that's what we do.
Sure.
That's what we're doing. Sure. Yeah. But like I said, it's impossible to teach everybody, but whoever wants, to listen to us, to come to us, let us help them. If they want to be helped, we will help them. We will, educate them or review those policies. But to educate everybody or to say that everybody should be educated, they can. But like I said, that's why there's different professions, and then you go to those professionals when you need, something done the right way, because that's all they do day in and day out. They don't know a little bit about a lot of things. They know a lot about one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's who we are.
Yeah.
We're that expert.
I think that we have a very powerful tool at our disposal,
Google.
which is
Google.
and phones and social media and ads, and we're trying to, as much as we can, within the resources that we have, to push as much information as we can. And then, yes, if you want to receive education, in a sense, like know the full length of your coverages or what insurance is, you can come to us. But I think at least if we could give that people that trigger of, you see something, call, you have a question, ask, those little triggers. Maybe they're not educated as to the details of the process, but at least they know who to seek once it has certain damages. And what we're trying to do is, as you know, just getting these on these platforms and spread as much awareness as we possibly can.
Yeah, completely understandable. So I wanted to ask you guys, because I know that a lot of homeowners and business owners don't actually know what the claim process is like. And so I wanted to get your perspective from a public adjusting perspective. Like, how does it look like? Like what steps are you doing for the clients?
Yuly?
Yeah, well, we always start with, a free inspection and evaluation of the policy. The policy evaluation doesn't have to come necessarily with a loss. We can do that at any time. But if they do, suffer any kind of damage and they call us, we'll do a free inspection. We'll inspect the losses that they found as well as the rest of the property. There may be, like we were talking earlier, hidden damages, things they haven't noticed. So we're going to conduct that full inspection of the property, notify them. We'll review that policy. We'll let them know what their coverages are. And honestly, all they need to worry about, we'll thoroughly explain our contract. It's not like your insurance contract. You sign and go. You understand all of the parts of our contract, what you're agreeing to, what to expect from us, and we'll let you know what we expect from you as well. And from there, we pretty much, we take on the whole claim process for from the inspections, the negotiating, the scoping of the property, to make sure that everything is accounted for in our estimate.
Is that in order?
So the inspection, there's an inspection, a policy review. From there, things are not, it's not, everything will be done, but maybe not in that, exact same order. But, we will do a scope of the property, which is an estimate that we present to the insurance company. We will, go to as many inspections as we need to with the carrier, experts, engineers, whoever it is at the property. We'll meet with them. So we'll let you know what's expected from you, but we'll hold your hand, So I'm not gonna say you can sit back and you're not gonna do anything. We'll let you know what we need from you, but we're not just gonna tell you, hey, you need to do this. Like, we will hold your hand through the whole process. And we'll do, most of the work. We'll do the negotiating and
Is it that we hold their hand or they're holding our hand? And we're
gonna hold their hand. We're gonna hold their hand and we're gonna put up that fight for them.
Okay, great.
Also, one of the services we provide that many other companies charge for or pass it on to somebody else is the mortgage endorsement process. We do that for our clients as a courtesy, and we have an in-house staff that handles that. So it's all handled within the same company.
Yeah. How important is that?
It's very important because many payments, specifically ones like that are in excess of like 15, 20K, more or less.
It depends on the lender, but usually anything sometimes over 10, over 20. Depends on the type of loss.
The larger the sum of money, the more likely it is that the mortgage will try to monitor the funds. That means that you won't see that money initially, like right away, in a lump sum. They'll hold it and disperse it little by little as you do the repairs. Right. And it sounds simple, but it's very, very tedious.
So what you're saying is that if I were to have, let's just say $20,000 in damages, and I have a mortgage, they're not going to be paying $20K to me. They're going to be paying, maybe $3,000 and then another $5,000 once I fix stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we get the check, but it has to be endorsed by the mortgage so that the mortgage company will monitor those funds. So they'll deposit that money. And then as you do the repairs, they disperse it little by little.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. And in my experience, a lot of people are even surprised when that check comes and it has a mortgage on it, because they thought, the check is in the mail. They're like, okay, I'm going to have my money in 3 days. And they're like, why is my mortgage company on there? This is not their house. And then what they don't realize is, as long as you have a lien on your property, they're an interested party. They're going to be listed on there because they want to know everything that goes on with that property. So they want to be involved. And depending on your bank, the type of loss you have, your loan details, they may just sign it over, or they may go through that process that Edgar was explaining with the monitoring process. But like I said, not to worry, we will help you with that process as well if that's what you encounter in your situation.
Yeah. So question, this is something that I just thought about. So I guess my ignorant brain, the way that mortgages work is, you basically are paying just like rent, basically, except you're paying the whole value of the house for a certain amount of time, right? And something that triggered this thought was when you said they're a stakeholder in this process, because it's their property, basically.
They have an interest on the property.
Yeah, they have an interest in the property. So if I were to almost be done paying the mortgage, do they even have a say in it? Is that how it works? You know what I mean?
As long as you owe them a penny and their name is still on there, they have a say.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, could they be more flexible depending, every case is different. But technically, the answer to the question is yes. As long as you owe them a penny and that mortgage is not paid off, their name will be on that check.
Gotcha. So even if I paid 350 and I'm only missing $1,000 left, they're still going to be withholding the check.
Yeah.
Not always, but there's a possibility. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. Sometimes we can negotiate for you to use part of your funds to, pay off whatever's left, and the rest to repair your home.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Cool. Is there something out there that you guys have seen that it's not, that's not in a way, I guess you could call it normal per se? Like, is there a damage? Is there shady clients out there that you sort of realize, oh, these people are like, they probably did that themselves, Have you guys encountered that? Like, how often is that happening? I'm curious.
There's always shady people. There's always shady people that are going to try to find, a dollar here, a dollar there, and try to do something. And those are not the people that we represent. So just like, somebody can choose us to be, their public adjuster. If we do suspect that somebody is trying to do something that's fraudulent, or they're trying, to, like I said, make some money off the insurance company, or something is not, really there, then obviously we would respectfully, decline their business as well.
Yeah. And this goes back to, sorry, go ahead, Edgar.
I wanted to say that Yuly's very familiar with this because she lives in Hialeah, and this is
actually, no, common. I'm not.
What are you trying to say about Hialeah people, huh?
That they're nice people, and
right.
They're very hardworking homeowners.
Yeah.
And they like to think us outside the box, which is good.
So I've seen other PAs going to the whole PA side, because I've also seen and heard stories about bad PAs. I saw the other day that there was a public adjuster here a couple of years ago in Miami that basically took over $420,000 worth of of damages of what was supposed to go to the client. And they basically disappeared until they went to jail. How often do you guys encounter like bad PAs, and is that something that they should be worried about? Like, is it something that, they should be like in high alert all the time, or is it something that, it's not as common as we typically think?
Well, I think it's not common to see somebody that steals $420,000. A PA that does that.
I think it might have been way more, because it was two people.
Those are extremes.
There's always a bad apple in the bunch. But
but you do have to watch out for PAs that don't really know what they're doing. That they have the license, but they don't necessarily have the experience.
Yeah.
So I think the best way to, navigate that is just get several, look into them and interview several PAs if you must, and see, get their credentials or license. How long have they been in business? How many claims have they adjusted? And get a feel for them. Also,
reviews.
What would be some indicators of having a bad PA?
I say follow your gut instinct. When you meet someone and someone comes to your house, or if you interview the person, I think you could kind of follow your instinct and know if this person, is shady or. But like I said, do your homework. Don't just just trust. We were talking about earlier. People just trust people just because. Do your homework. Do your due diligence. Look this person up. Like Edgar said, look up their license. Look up the company. Look at reviews. Anything that can validate that person, and then
references.
of course references. Yeah.
You can ask for other clients to, see if they could. I mean, I've never had this done, but I'm assuming like it's just an idea. You can ask the PA for references from other, happy clients.
Yeah.
Things to look out for. I think a big one is overpromising.
Yeah.
If somebody walks in the door and tells you, "I'm going to get you, $50,000 for a kitchen that's clearly no more than 10," that's a problem right there.
Yeah.
First thought should be, how are you going to do it? And second, why?
Even if you hire a PA, you don't want to be involved in anything like that, because when you sign that contract with that person, you're responsible for whatever happens to them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And once you sign that contract, after 3 days, you're basically tied to that PA for the full length of the claim. So if you're unhappy with that PA, it's not like you just you can get rid of them. So that's why it's important to choose wisely.
Wait, you can't get rid of them? Like
after 3 days,
you
cannot. You have 3 days to cancel that contract with that PA.
Gotcha. All right. So, that's really interesting, actually. 3 days.
And 5 days.
Isn't it just like a lawyer that, can actually, no? It's not like a lawyer that you can just, swap
fire.
out. Yeah. Okay.
No, that's not how it works. We just settled a case yesterday where the homeowner was working with a PA. She was unhappy. She sought us out. She signed up with us. She tried to get a release from that PA, a release from representation. The PA said no. And ultimately the claim settled. We did great, but she has to pay our fee, and unfortunately has to pay that PA's full fee.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So because you're a bad PA, you're costing people money.
Yeah. Costing people money and putting out a bad name to the rest of the PAs out there.
Yeah. In the industry. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. And we'll thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I truly appreciate it. You guys are definitely awesome. And yeah.